So, Rwanda was originally a German territory. So that means that in the 1800s, Germany is going to control Rwanda. Okay, they colonized Rwanda first. They are under German rule. Okay, but then World War II happens. Or one, sorry. After World War One. When was World War One? Anyone?
The 20s?
No, before. What?
The team.
The teens. 1914 to 1919, okay? So that's when World War One happens. Who's the winner, who's the loser?
Germany lost.
Germany lost, right? Germany's the losers. So because Germany loses World War One, they have to give up all of their possessions, okay? Everything that they had owned, all of their colonies, they had to give it up because they were the losers, okay? So that means they give up Rwanda, okay? After World War One, they gave up land in Rwanda to Belgium, okay? Belgium is going to be the new colonizer, okay? That's who's going to be in control of Rwanda, okay? So what happens when when Belgium takes control of Rwanda is that they split the groups, they split the people, split groups. Yes, Belgium did this. Split the groups by socioeconomic status. Do you know what socioeconomic means?
Like how
I spelled it wrong.
money they had?
One more time, Hannah.
How much money they had?
Yeah, it means how much money you have. Okay, so let's draw a dollar sign out beside this so that way you know. Okay, so based on who was rich and who was poor, they started dividing them. All right, and it happened to be that the Tutsis were richer. Okay, and the Hutus were not. Now, does that mean that there weren't any rich Hutus? No, there of course are exceptions, but for the most part, the Belgians are going to favor the Tutsis. Okay, so they kind of pit these two groups against each other. All right, and so with that, they're going to cause a lot of violence because of this. Okay, this leads to violence between the Hutus and the Tutsis. Okay, so the Tutsis are going to be the favored ones. Now, think about it. This is kind of a power play move based on, like, for Belgium, okay? Because if you think about it, if they divide the groups of people in Rwanda, aka the Hutus and the Tutsis, and they make them fight at each other, right? If they don't get along, does that mean they can unite and, like, overthrow Belgium? No, because they're more concerned about fighting each other, about not liking each other and hating each other. That's all the Hutus and the Tutsis care about is, wow, I hate you, you hate me, let's fight, okay? So they're too busy worried about that to overthrow Belgium or to, like, worry about trying to be independent, okay? So they're really struggling between the Hutus and the Tutsis, all right? Until 1962. In 1962, Belgium is going to leave. Belgium leaves and Rwanda is independent. But you ready for the game changer? So before 1962 happens, remember, Hutus and Tutsis are fighting. We hate each other. Tutsis are more powerful because the Belgians like us better. They like us more, okay? So the Hutus obviously hate that, right? They're jealous that the Tutsis have all this control. They control the government. They're better friends with the Belgians. And so the Hutus and the Tutsis are fighting. Right before independence, the Hutus actually gain control of the government. And then Belgium says, okay, we out. See you later. Have fun. That's really how it happens, okay? So Hutus now are in control. The Belgians leave and go back to Europe. And that's really what happens throughout a lot of Africa, okay? When the Europeans finally leave Africa, they leave all of these groups in a lot of turmoil because they're already in conflict. They already don't like each other. And so now they have to figure out who is going to run the government. Are they going to have elections, or is someone just going to gain control and then start putting other people down, okay? And that's really what happens in Rwanda, okay? So now the Hutus are going to be in charge. And the problem now is that we don't know who is going to control the government, okay? Who controls government? That's what we're going to write. And basically, all this is going to do is cause more violence, okay? More fighting, because now we can't agree who's actually going to have control, because for the longest time the Tutsis were in control, and now the Hutus are in control, and now we don't have any European colonization in our country anymore. So who's actually going to take control? We don't know, okay? There's going to be a lot of fighting, okay? So what happens is that we're going to jump in. What you guys read on that timeline piece was the start of the 100 days, okay? What the movie we're about to start is going to start right at the beginning of the 100 days of genocide, right? That's what you guys just read about. So this all comes to a head in April. Ooh, that's not April. Here we go. April 1994. Is that a long time ago? No, it's not. I wasn't even 1 year old yet, okay? So I was alive. It didn't happen in your timeline. Your parents were definitely old enough to know what was going on in Rwanda, okay? I was just a baby. My parents remember, okay? So it's still pretty recent, like 25, 26-ish years ago that this was happening, okay? So in April of 1994, this is going to start the 100 days of genocide.
Which is basically like killing.
Yes, killing of people based off of ethnic reasons, okay? 1 million people are going to die. Yeah, 1 million people die. And most of them are going to be Tutsis and Hutu moderates, okay? A Hutu moderate is going to be a person who doesn't outright hate the Tutsis, okay? So the way the crazy rebel Hutus approach this is, if you don't hate the Tutsis, then you're just as bad as the Tutsis. Okay, so that's kind of how they approach it. So if you don't outright hate the Tutsis and you're a Hutu, then you're just as bad as them, and so you're a Hutu moderate, okay, because you're not like a crazy Hutu who wants to kill them. Okay, so that's kind of how it goes. The big deal with this is that what had just happened in the 40s during World War II? Genocide, right? Of who? Of the Jews, right? So the Jews were killed during the Holocaust. It's a horrible thing, right? They didn't do anything wrong, and Hitler goes and kills all these Jews, right? So it's a terrible thing. And right after World War II, what two big groups were formed that we've talked about? The UN and?
Russia.
UN and? NATO. Thank you, Jeffrey. Okay. So the UN and NATO, but specifically the UN, right? The UN is created to do what? You all said it on your quiz.
Peace.
Right? Keep the peace, right? So is Rwanda keeping the peace right now? No, they're not, right? So fast forward after UN is created in 1948. Fast forward 40-something years, and we're having another case of genocide, okay? And what you probably just read on your timeline, were you reading about how the UN wasn't sending any troops to Rwanda? You should have read that on your timeline a little bit, okay? How they were like pulling troops out of Rwanda instead of sending troops in. They were pulling them out, okay? And the background behind that is because at one point, like all of this was happening in Africa. A lot of similar stories happened throughout Africa, okay? So in Somalia, this had happened like years before, and the U.S. decides to jump in. But the problem is that the U.S. kind of joined in on the wrong side. They started supporting the wrong guys, the bad guys, and we didn't know it. And instead, we ended up looking like idiots because we supported the wrong group, and we ended up being on like the losing side of it, okay? So we looked like fools. Nothing ever really good came out of the Somalia incident. So then when everything starts happening in Rwanda, that was similar to Somalia, the UN and the US become very hesitant on sending people in because they don't really trust their intel. They don't know a whole lot about who are the good guys and who are the, quote, bad guys, okay? So they're very hesitant to send people in if there's going to be a lot of fighting because they don't want to lose troops, and they also don't want to look stupid like they had been made fun of in Somalia, basically, okay? So that's why it's very hesitant, and that's why things progress really fast, which is what you should have read in that timeline, right? If you're not finished, you'll finish reading that timeline, and why things progress really fast and get out of hand, okay? So that's kind of like leading up to it, all right? So some things in the top right-hand corner, we need to write out some of our other groups that we have. Some other groups we have are going to be the Interhamwe, INTERHAMWE. These people are going to be the Hutu rebel group, okay? So in the movie, they're going to have really bright colored shirts on. You're gonna know who they are, and these are going to be your, quote, like bad guys, okay? These are gonna be the crazy ones who are just gonna go to town using machetes and just hacking up people if they're Hutus, okay? These are the bad guys, all right? The Interhamwe. These are the so crazy ones that if you're not Hutu proud and you're a Tutsi, you're dead. Basically, okay? That's the attitude of the Interhamwe, okay? And they're going to have on the crazy colored shirts. And the movie is going to start with this guy. You're just going to hear him talking over the radio, and that's really kind of how it started. This guy who was a part of the rebel group had a radio broadcast, and he was calling all of the Interhamwe and all of the Hutus together to kill the Tutsis, and that's how they're gonna kind of start this whole 100 days of genocide. He's gonna tell them over the radio to like, hey, let's go, like it's now. And after everything happens, he's gonna be tried for war crimes because he's the one who like encouraged it and kind of started it, okay? But that's the Interhamwe, the crazy ones, all right? The other group that we're going to see is the just Rwandan military, and they're going to have on just normal like soldier uniforms. And it gets tricky with the military because the Rwandan military, that's the national military, they're gonna have Hutus and they're gonna have Tutsis in the one government, right? Just like how we have lots of different ethnic groups in our army, right? And so it gets hairy because they want to protect the people, but also the rebel group, the Interhamwe, are going to gain such large numbers and be so aggressive that the military is going to have a hard time controlling them, okay? And then the last group we're going to look at that will be represented is the UN military, okay? These guys are going to have on blue berets, like blue hats and blue vests, and it's going to say UN on there. There's a guy who's going to have an American accent because he's from America, and you'll see some other guys that'll have the UN, but it'll also have like another patch that says like what country they're from. And so the UN the UN general who you read a little bit about in the timeline, he's going to like control the forces of the UN military, but they're going to start pulling troops out, UN troops out of Rwanda, and he's going to be left there with just like a few hundred troops to try to protect thousands of Rwandans, okay? And so we'll see that as the movie gets started too, okay? So that is that. This is going to be number 16 on your Padlet. So go ahead and take a picture of it and upload it while I start the movie really quick. Okay.